What you're looking at here is my old favorite retired Vepr 12 in all of its corroded, rusty glory. I shot the snot out of this thing in competition as well as with friends up in the mountains. Last round bolt hold open, a pseudo self-adjusting gas system that let me run light or heavy shells, and great magazines like this CS Specs mag, all steel mag made in the US, 8-rounder. This thing was fun, and then they got banned from import. So unfortunately you can't find these anymore. What's beneath it is the new RS-S1 brought in by Legacy. We'll be taking a look at this guy next on GBGuns. Those of you familiar with the channel understand that my tabletop bench videos don't have room for long guns, so unfortunately I can't show you the full case, but as you saw, it's a hard case, and we've got the egg crate style foam at top and a pre-cut foam below for the rifle. Comes with 2 of these 5-round magazines. And let's take a look at the instruction manual to see what we've got here. 20-inch barrel. Black, red, and white, and blue. And how well, we've got photos, which is great, with circles highlighting features, how to load, disassembly, reassembly. Pretty good. And those photos a little dark, but anyways, let's get this all out of the way and take a look at the RS-S1 and see if it's going to be a good replacement for the Vepr 12. So right off the bat, looking at it, it's got some features that my Vepr 12 never came with. For example, the extended safety lever here, that is quite stiff. That'll need some breaking in. It looks like there was just some goop on there from the shipping grease. If you're not familiar with the Vepr 12, it's an AK based or styled 12 gauge shotgun, and part of what made them so popular in the 3-gun community was that they have a magazine well, so you just shove your mag in and you're good to go. Additionally, with the safety down, last round bolt hold open, so it holds open, makes loading it much easier. You get that mag out. Wow, that mag release has some spring tension. Check that out. It's actually kicking the magazines out. My Vepr 12 didn't do that. And down here is your little tab to be able to release it and send it forward. So it runs much faster than the Saiga style. It was also built on the RPK beefier receivers, and you can see here we've got some swell on the trunnion, so that remains true on this guy. We have a hinged top cover, which is a nice feature. Makes adding and taking this on and off a little bit easier. Also means that if you have an optic on this rail, that it's going to stay closer to zeroed. Granted, it is a 12 gauge, there's a lot of recoil going on. We have an RPK style rear sight here that is adjustable, and the oil is picking up all of Tactikitty's hair. Adjustable. Looking at our handguard, nice contours here, front sight. We have rail underneath the barrel, which is nice. The Veprs didn't have that. And the thread is inside the barrel, so we've got, comes with the choke tool for removing that. Not sure what the pattern is on that. You'll have to look it up on Citadel's website if you're into running chokes. I never ran one of my Vepr 12 because it wasn't an option, at least not one that I could afford. We have a sling point on the right side of the gun where it's not going to bother us right-handed shooters. Pistol grip that is attached to the stock, and a rubber, very firm rubber butt pad. Taking a look at the other side, plenty of Tactikitty hair. My apologies for that. Nice laser etched branding there. This looks pretty good. Next, we'll field strip this thing and take a look inside the gun. Before I do that, I do want to check, are my favorite magazines, once again these are from CS Specs, going to work. Feels like it locked in there. It's of course difficult to do on camera, and is going to hold the bolt open. It does. Though that spring doesn't quite kick out these heavier steel mags. But we'll see on the range if that actually functions. All right, so now to get into this thing, you've got a dually locked dust cover. So there's a button on top here that has to be pushed in. See if I can zoom in a little bit for you. Push down on this button and in, and that lets you lift the dust cover off, which is pivoted, hinged on there, so it just pivots up. That's easy. We bring our recoil spring forward and out of its track, and it comes straight out. We can now bring the bolt and carrier out, and the piston is shaped in the self-regulating style that the Vepr 12 was. That's a good indicator that this guy's going to be able to run on lighter and heavier loads. We'll see that when we get out to the range. Pulling out our bolt, we have a spring-loaded firing pin. That's a great safety feature. What that does is that prevents the inertia of the bolt slamming from the firing pin slamming forward and torching off a round. If you ever shot an AR-15, chambered around and then extracted it, you notice there's a slight indentation on the primer. That's from firing pin bounce. So this spring prevents that from happening. Looking at our carrier, it looks pretty solid. No wobble at all between the gas piston and the carrier itself. And to look down inside, so again, I'll get some zoom going for you. And we've got the twisted wire spring. Looks like decent rail strength. Everything looks to me to be fairly standard AK. We do have the shepherd's hook or crook wire that's just on the other side there. You see that reaching there? That helps keep the pins from walking out, which is especially valuable on a 12 gauge like this. And there is no hump. Oh, looks like down is going to be the better way to demonstrate that. Get this hammer locked back down. See how that's shined off on the top there? There's no hump on there. That's going to help make the bolt cycle a little more smoothly. This looks like to be a pretty good construction. I gotta say, as a Vepr 12 fan, I was really excited to see these. And the Vepr 12s were more expensive than the Sagaz back in the other day. And that kind of limited sales to begin with. And the aftermarket really took off for the Sagaz in contrast to the Veprs. But that was also because the Sagaz tended to need it more than the Vepr. This is always difficult to do via camera view. You want to make sure the bolt is far forward enough for that to clear. Get it back on the rails. Pushing down against the hammer a little bit. There we go. That slides in. Then we return our spring back to its little spot. This bit here is just to help cover the chamber. It's a dust cover, if you will, for when the actual cover is down. It has to be open this far back because of the long, potentially 3-inch shells, because this is rated for 3-inch shells, to clear. It goes back and forth. The action is nice and smooth, about as smooth, I'd say, as my Vepr was after getting quite a few rounds through it. I loved that thing because it was a tank. I put probably close to 6,000 rounds through it, far more than you ever should. I also hand-fed 3.5 inches, which you should never do. It's a really bad idea. That gun was abused. I abused the snot out of it. See, we've got engraved S and F for safe and fire. For those of you not familiar with these safeties, it does stop nicely to keep it from overextending. You can't go so high that it's going to kick the hammer off. If you're an AK guy, you know that sometimes that happens, and people who throw the safety too high can accidentally end up firing on some guns. That's not an issue here. And we have this extended piece down here, which is usually an aftermarket upgrade that comes factory on the RS-S1. So I gotta say, from the looks of it, tabletop wise, good job to Citadel and Legacy Sports for bringing this guy in. It's a handsome looking gun. I'm looking forward to getting out to the range. Dirty secret, the morning after filming this is actually we're gonna be hitting the woods to do some shooting with this. Gonna be a good time for sure. Do have some QD points on the back of the stock here that I didn't mention before. Matty AR is not so much of a 12 gauge fan, but semi-autos like this tend to be a little gentler. So we'll see how that goes. If any of you own the RS-S1 or a Vepr 12, please give us some stories and thoughts in the comments down below. I'm gonna get this thing packed up and ready for the range, and we'll have our shooting impressions video for you ready soon.